Music as a revolutionary force? It might sound far-fetched, but today we're exploring a story where a dishwasher's inner melody sparks a cultural revolution.
Oh, that sounds intriguing. What's the context for this musical uprising?
Well, it all starts in the Dominican Republic with a tale that blends historical fact and magical realism. The story opens with a brief mention of a boy named Denver, whose father was part of the June 14th revolutionary movement against the dictatorship of Rafael Leonidas Trujillo, also known as Chapita.
So we're dealing with some heavy historical context here. How does that tie into the main narrative?
It sets the stage for a different kind of revolution. The heart of the story takes place in the Victoria restaurant, a beautifully described establishment that's as much a character as the people in it. And at the center of it all is Oki, a dishwasher with an extraordinary gift.
A dishwasher? That's an unexpected protagonist. What makes Oki so special?
Oki has this incredible ability to carry music inside him. Even when he's not allowed to listen to music at work, he sings, filling the kitchen with joy and energy. It's like he embodies the idea that music isn't just something we listen to, but something that lives within us.
That's a beautiful concept. You know, it reminds me of the famous quote by Friedrich Nietzsche, "Without music, life would be a mistake." It seems Oki is living proof of that philosophy.
Exactly. And Oki's musical spirit sets up the central conflict of the story when Dorothea, the new head of personnel, tries to silence him. Dorothea is this fascinating character. On the surface, she's cold and controlling, but the author hints at a deeper, more tragic backstory.
So we've got a classic conflict between joy and control. And how does that play out?
Well, it's really interesting. Dorothea tries to enforce rules against music, but Oki's inner melody can't be silenced. And here's where it gets really powerful. Oki's joy starts to affect everyone around him. Other cooks begin to hum their own songs, and soon the entire restaurant is transformed.
That's fascinating. It's almost like a metaphor for how art and creativity can spread and influence society, isn't it?
Absolutely. The author really drives this home with the description of how the restaurant becomes a cultural hub. Artists find inspiration there. People with depression find peace. It's a beautiful vision of the transformative power of joy and authenticity.
You know, this reminds me of the concept of collective effervescence in sociology. It's the idea that shared, joyful experiences can create a sense of community and even lead to social change. It sounds like that's exactly what's happening in this story.
That's such an insightful connection. And it really highlights how the author's using this fantastical story to comment on real-world social dynamics. The way Oki's attitude spreads is a powerful metaphor for how positive change can ripple through a community.
And it's not just about personal transformation, is it? The story seems to be suggesting that this kind of joyful authenticity can have wider cultural impacts.
Exactly. It's like Oki is carrying on the revolutionary spirit of Denver's father, but through joy and music rather than political action. It's a different kind of resistance, one based on being true to yourself and spreading positivity.
That's a really powerful idea. Do you think the author is suggesting this kind of joyful revolution is more effective than traditional forms of resistance?
That's a great question. I don't think the author is necessarily saying it's more effective, but rather that it's another important form of resistance. The story seems to be suggesting that cultural preservation and celebration can be just as revolutionary as political action.
That makes sense. And it ties back to the historical context at the beginning, doesn't it? The June 14th movement was fighting for the soul of their country. And here we see that fight continuing in a different way.
Exactly. And the author uses food as another metaphor for this cultural preservation. The traditional Dominican dishes mentioned, mofongo, sancocho, the flag, they're all part of this larger theme of nourishing identity and culture.
Oh, that's a great observation. So the restaurant itself becomes a kind of microcosm for the larger cultural struggles and triumphs.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting how the author uses the framework of a children's story, the apple tree, Old Venancio, and Oki Loki, as a sort of story within a story. It adds another layer of depth and reminds us of the power of storytelling itself.
That's fascinating. It's like the author's acknowledging the transformative power of stories, both for the characters in the tale and for us as readers or listeners.
Exactly. As we wrap up our discussion, I'm curious, has this story changed how you think about your own inner music?
Well, that's a thought-provoking question. I think it's definitely made me more aware of the joy I carry inside and how I might be able to share that with others. What about you?
It certainly made me think about the times when I might be acting more like Dorothea, trying to control things or shut down joy because of my own fears or past hurts. It's a reminder to stay open to the music around us, even when it's challenging.
That's a powerful realization. I think we could all benefit from being a little more like Oki and a little less like Dorothea.
Absolutely. And as we close out today's episode, I hope our listeners take a moment to reflect on their own inner melodies. Remember, like Oki, your joy and authenticity have the power to transform not just your life, but the lives of those around you.
That's beautifully put. And who knows, maybe by letting your inner music play, you'll inspire others to do the same. After all, as this story shows us, joy can be wonderfully contagious.
Thank you for joining us on Gen FM. Until next time, keep your inner music playing.
And remember, in the words of Oki, as long as I breathe, I will continue singing. Take care, everyone.